Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am. But it is not full screen yet.
Mm, now? Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am, we can see the screen.
Can you see the full screen?
No, ma'am.
No?
Ma'am, you will have to share full screen mode in the Meet instead of a tab.
Now, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great. Full screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And recording is also started?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your help because this new generation knows everything, and I'm really thankful for your, support. So I will need support from time to time, just in case of I stuck up in this Google Meet. I'm not very used to Google Meet. Okay. So coming to our main topic, we are trying to learn during the two sessions, 2 hour session, that what is regulatory affairs, how many regulatory bodies are there, and how important is this function, the regulatory affairs. First, from your end, I would like to understand that, do you know what is regulatory affairs? Let us try to make this session very interactive. Do you know what is regulatory affairs?
Ma'am, we see to the work that is done by the other departments, and we make proper documents for it, and we forward it to the FDA or the other main bodies.
Okay. Anyone else would like to say what is regulatory affairs?
Ma'am, basically it is like we put regulatory standards for every drug for basically human use after that.
Okay. You are little bit correct, but still, can someone else would try to?
It's to standardize the industrial process and make sure all protocols are appropriately followed.
I see. So you all are guys into final year B Farm, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay. And you are learning what all other subject apart from this regulatory affairs? Pharmaceutics, pharmacology, pharmacognosy, farm tech, and what else? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Ma'am, you are correct.
Any other subject?
Ma'am, cosmetics, suitics, IPR.
Great. Somebody has kept their, mic on, like they have not unmuted. I could hear some noise in between. Okay. So regulatory affairs, affairs means what? Affairs is a big word, right? So regulatory affairs is nothing but collecting, analyzing, and communicating risk and benefit of pharmaceutical product to different agencies across the world. Okay. Regulatory affairs means what? Collecting, analyzing, and communicating risk and benefit of pharmaceutical product to different agencies across the world. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Collecting means what? You have to collect the information regarding quality, safety, efficacy for pharmaceutical product, and communicating risk and benefit of that product to different agencies. Different agencies means this world comprises of 257 countries, more than 257 countries, and this world is divided into regulated and semi-regulated market. Okay, when we talk about regulated market, means we have to follow very stringent standards, regulations, laws. Everything is very strict, strictly monitored with respect to quality, safety, efficacy. And any health authorities main objective is to protect public health, and in order to protect public health we have to meet those three requirements, that is quality, safety and efficacy. Okay, so the entire pharmaceutical industry, the drugs product or anything which we manufacture, which is consumed by a patient like us, we are consumers, right? We are also one of the patient, because whenever we have headache, whenever you will have stomach pain, back pain, we have to have medicine, right? We are used to now. So drugs, medicine are very popular. We pop up all the tablets, capsule, varieties of dosage form. Whenever we have any symptoms like headache, stomach ache, or any kind of disease, the diabetes, heart attack, or any kind of disease. So the drug regulatory bodies, the main function is what? To protect public health. How do they protect? They make the laws, they make the standards, they make the regulations, you know. So whatever standards, regulations, laws, act, Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940, these are all are published for what? To protect public health. If any regulatory bodies would not have been there, what would have happened? People would have died. Correct. The drugs manufacturers would not have control. They would have manufactured any kind of medicine, adulterated medicine, or any kind of. There would not be any control. So there are standards, there are ICH guidelines, there is a GMP, GLP, GDP system. Correct. GMP means what?
Yes, ma'am. Good
G-
manufacturing practices.
Correct. GLP, good laboratory practices. Correct.
Yes,
GCP,
ma'am.
good clinical practices. GDP, good documentation practices. So when you enter into the pharmaceutical world for your job, all this terminology will be heard day in day night. GMP, GLP, GDP, GCP, ICH, all country specific requirement like US FDA, Europe, UK MHRA, ROW. So all these are markets. Okay, understood now regulatory affairs?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So, all this content which I have gathered for you guys, the source is acknowledged, everything is available on the internet. Only you should understand from where do I get the exact information. Otherwise, it is freely available information on internet. Now, everybody is aware of, since you are going to become a pharmacist like me, right? So you know what is meant by drug. Am I right? What is meant by drug?
Yes, ma'am.
In a layman language, can you explain someone what is drug?
Ma'am, anything that benefits the health.
Okay. Anyone else? Hello. You have to speak, huh? Otherwise, I won't understand whether I'm speaking in the right terms and whether you are in a position to understand my lecture or not. Only one person I could hear, right? What is your good name?
Ma'am, Kruti.
Kruti. Thank you, Kruti. You are only talking. That means you are only having good attention towards what I am speaking. Others are not.
Ma'am, any drug or substance which change the pharmacological action.
Okay, great. Very good answer. Anyone else would like to try? Apart from these two answers, anyone else? So what is the drugs definition given under Drugs and Cosmetic Act? Tell me. All medicines for internal or external use of human being or animals. It's not necessary that only human beings are consumed drugs, right? Animals are also given the drugs, medicines. So all medicine which can be used internally or externally. Here also you understand. Internally also we take the medicine. Externally also. Am I right? Now there are so
Yes,
many
ma'am.
patches available externally. Painkillers, pain balms, ointments, creams. There are so many things are available which could be used externally for the human beings and animals. So, and all substances intended to be used for diagnosis, treatment, mitigation, or prevention of any disease or disorder in human beings or animals. So, this is the exact definition of the drug, and one should understand this definition in detail. Okay, so regulation means what? Regulation means to regulate, to control something so that it functions properly. Correct. Suppose if you are walking on the road, if the RTO is not the rules, right? You have to walk on a footpath. You have to, whenever you want to cross over, there are crossover lines, correct? You have to watch for the signals. How many signals are there? Red, green, orange, right? Yellow. So you have to monitor all these things. Why there are rules? Because from the safety point of view, correct? If the vehicle stops as per the signal given, then only you have to cross the roads. Am I right? And that's how the safety is very, very important in pharma industry also. Safety is extremely important. So whatever you are manufacturing, whatever you are planning to sell your drug in whichever country, whether it is India, Europe, US, Canada, wherever you want to go, you have to stick to standards. You have to follow regulations. Okay, and that's why regulation means what? To control anything which goes into our body, right? Which can be used internally, externally. The drugs, the medicine. I hope it is pretty clear now.
Yes, ma'am.
So, as we all know, being a pharmacy, that drugs play important role in the health and economy of a country. Correct? So, pharmaceutical drugs are available from number of sources. Am I right? It's not only one source, multiple sources are available to ensure that they meet prescribed standards, to ensure that safety, efficacy, and quality of the drugs, as well as accuracy and appropriateness of the drug information available to the public. Okay. So, what is the key function of regulatory agency? Agency means I'm talking about US FDA, UK MHRA, CDSCO. What is our Indian regulatory body called? Anyone knows? Hello? What is our Indian body? Tell me.
CDSU,
Huh?
CDSU.
CDSCO, right. DCGI. So India is CDSCO, our regulatory agency. You should remember. You should be proud of our India, right? When we talk about US, it's US FDA. FDA is a common term, Food and Drug, administration. FDA is common. When we talk about Indian FDA, FDA is also used, right? FDA term. But our body, when we talk our agency, it is CDSCO. Okay. When we talk about UK MHRA. So like that, there are multiple bodies across the globe, multiple agencies, or some people call it at MOH, Ministry of Health, HA, Health Authority. Okay, so these are the common terms you should be aware of, familiar with these terms, because you have selected regulatory affairs as a elective subject. Correct. So, key function of drug regulatory agency is what? Product registration. First of all, you have to register your product as per the country specific regulation. Okay. So, regulation of drug manufacturing, importation, and the distribution. So, after product registration, what happens? You have to regulate your drug manufacturing, importation, and distribution of those drugs. So without manufacturing, you cannot sell your product, right? So you have to control import and export or the distribution of those drugs. Then also we have to monitor the adverse drug reaction. Correct. You might have heard about pharmacovigilance. Nowadays, see, extremely important function, the role played by the pharmacovigilance expert. Why? Because lots of adverse reactions are happening due to consumption of drugs, and that's why we have to monitor. So everywhere the pharmacovigilance centers are there. Okay, so once you register your product, you get the approval, you start manufacturing, you start distribution, right? Once you start distribution, people are consuming our drug, and then the reaction or the adverse effect are monitored through pharmacovigilance system. Then there are some other functions like licensing of premises and persons and practices. So you need a QPPA. What is QP? Qualified person. Okay, so a pharmacist can become a qualified person when he or she has enough experience in that particular area. Then main goal of agency is to what? Guarantee the safety, efficacy, and quality of the available drug product. So these are the key functions of drug regulatory agencies. What? Quality control, drug information center, drug laws, drug regulatory boards, and the drug regulatory agencies. And these are the some regulatory authorities around the world. Okay, so if we talk about Europe, Europe has itself more than 30 countries, almost 27 plus 3, that is 30 countries. So you can see each country has their own what? Agency. Okay, so regulatory body, I mean to say, if you go to Armenia, you can deal with this authority. If Austria, Belgium, you can see there are different agencies. Okay, I hope it is clear. Say yes, no.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. See, North America, Health Canada, USA has US FDA, Australia, New Zealand, MedSafe. So we will include some, major regulatory bodies. Not all. It's not possible to cover all agencies. Okay. So you have to understand each health authority, though it could be Indian CDSCO or UK MHRA or US FDA. Each health authority's main objective is to protect public health. Okay, so these are all region. So North America, Australia, UK, Middle East. You can see Central South America. All these are different regions. Okay, and you have to just understand what are the different regulatory authorities around the world. Asia Pacific, you can see Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Indonesia, Japan, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Vietnam. So these are all Southeast Asian countries. There are 10 Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Laos, Philippines, then Vietnam. Those are 10 countries which falls under Southeast Asian countries. So when you are into regulatory affairs, you have to remember about quality, safety, efficacy, along with the registration requirement of each country, that is country specific, product specific guidelines, country specific rules and regulations, okay, the standards, and what else, the regulatory system. you know some country may have different type of regulatory system, so you have to understand all those topics in detail. Okay, fair enough. Now you understood how many bodies are there, and
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and this whole world is divided into regulated market and semi regulated market. So when I talk about regulated market, that means strict regulation standards are followed. When I talk about the semi regulated market, that means there is some liberty and some relaxed guidelines are there. Okay, now we talk about registration of process in the UK, United Kingdom. Okay, we'll go one by one, but I will not cover entire 257 countries. Okay, so you, once you understand, major regulated and semi-regulated market, how do they register the product, then it would be easy for you to understand other country specific requirement. But anyhow, during the academic, you will not be required such a depth knowledge, but when you will be in industry, those skills are required. So that's why we are skilling institute, we skill employees so that they get the job properly and they function properly during their jobs. So let us understand registration process in UK. So MCA was UK licensing authority, part of the Department of Health, responsible for safeguarding public health by ensuring that all medicines meet acceptable standards, responsible also for clinical trial exemption or clinical trial certificate. So UK MHRA means what? Can you tell me MHRA? Hmm? Can someone Google and find out what is MHRA?
Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency.
Correct. So always remember UK in London, UK means MHRA. Now due to Brexit, UK has separated. So they have their own agency, the big body. It is UK MHRA. Okay. It was formed in 2003 with the merger of MCA and MDA. So MCA is what? Nothing but it is a medicine control agency and medical device agency. Okay. So MCA and MDA merger took place in 2003, and that is why it was formed as MHRA. So now UK MHRA is separated due to Brexit, and UK MHRA has itself is an entire big body. Otherwise, earlier UK MHRA was a part of European Union. Okay, Europe, that is EMA, European Medicinal Agency, EMA. Okay, so earlier UK MHRA was a part of EMA, but now it is separated due to Brexit and it has their own big agency. In April 2013, it is merged with the National Institute of Biological Standards and Control, that is NIBSC, and was rebranded with MHRA identity being used solely for the regulatory center within the group. Medicine and Healthcare Product Agency. See, that is why I asked before I give this full form. I ask you, what is MHRA? MHRA is what? Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. So, this agency is an executive agency of the Department of Health and Social Care in United Kingdom, which is responsible for ensuring that medicines and the medical devices work and are acceptably safe. Correct? So always remember, any health authority's main objective is what? To protect public health. And to protect public health, of course, everyone has to be ensure that their products are safe. Safe for human, safe for animal. any medical device which you are going to manufacture should be safe, correct? So in case of medical device also, safety, integrity, performance is seen. And now, as per MDR 2017, the medical devices are also controlled as good as per drugs. And that's how this MDR 2017 rule published. Okay, and all medical devices manufacturers are also in transition to change their licenses from this MDD to MDR. So this MHRA, the Medicine and the Healthcare Product Regulatory Agency regulates medicines, medical devices, and blood components for transfusion in the UK. So these are some major role of UK MHRA. Operate post-marketing surveillance for reporting, investigating, and monitoring of ADR. What is ADR? Adverse drug reactions. Okay. So please pay attention. You will be asked certain MCQ, multiple choice questions. Okay. If someone would like to take the notes, you can just write down the notes also. So assessment and authorization of medicinal products for sale and supply. Okay. Then third, operate a quality surveillance to sample and test medicines to address quality defects and to monitor the safety and quality of unlicensed product. Monitor and ensure compliance with statutory obligations relating to medicines and medical devices, and regulate clinical trials of medicines and medical devices. So these are the major role of UK MHRA. I hope it is clear. If it is not clear, please raise your hand and talk to me, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And these are the different marketing authorization procedure which is followed in UK MHRA. Similarly, it is followed in Europe also. Europe also follows these four different system for regulatory affairs. Okay. So what are these two different system? So the regulatory affairs is what? The centralized procedure, decentralized procedure, and nationalized procedure in mutual aid. So in Europe, all these four entire authorization procedures are available. Okay, so UK MHRA also follows exactly similar to Europe. You have to understand four different regulatory system, that is centralized procedure, decentralized procedure, mutual recognized procedure, and the national procedure. Okay, so what is the difference between these four types of regulatory system? So these regulatory systems are different from each other. How they differ from each other? National procedure means what? One single application to one country. Okay, one single application to one country. So whenever any pharmaceutical manufacturer want to enter into Europe or UK MHRA, they have to go through one product, one country. That means one application to one country. So you can enter through national procedure. Okay, then you can slowly go with the mutual recognition. Once you are enter, you can enter into other countries. As I said, Europe comprises of 27 plus 3 countries, that is almost 30 countries. Okay, so after this national procedure you can go to mutually recognized procedure, in which you can select other countries. Okay, multiple countries. But what is the centralized and the decentralized procedure? Centralized procedure means what? Centralized procedure means one application, but the entire Europe, you know, entire Europe. That means now, suppose in case of disease like COVID, what has happened? COVID pandemic. It has killed so many human beings, so many people. And in such pandemic situation, you can go through centralized procedure. That means, suppose if Biocon or Serum Institute of India or anyone, Pfizer, Covishield or Covaxin, anyone would like to register their product, they can go through centralized procedure with single application, but they get the marketing authorization in entire Europe. So this centralized procedure is applicable in case of what? Rare disease, then all these emergency use medicines, then biotech product, then this one rare disease, anti-cancer, anti-AIDS, all these such type of medicine, you can go through what? Centralized procedure. That means one application entire Europe. Okay. Decentralized procedure means what? Decentralized means you have to select one country as your RMS, that is reference member state, and multiple country as your CMS. CMS means concerned member state. Okay. So in decentralized procedure, again I will repeat, in decentralized procedure, you have to select one country as RMS and multiple country as CMS, that is concerned member state, and you can book the DCP slot. Okay, and you move ahead. That means if a company wants to enter into multiple countries at one shot, multiple means 5, 6, 7 countries, because out of 30 countries, suppose you have selected only 3 to 5 countries, so you select this path as decentralized procedure. You select one country because you have already entered through nationalized procedure, right? One country, one application. So you can select that country also as your RMS, reference member state. That means it would become easy for you to get the approval in other countries. I hope it is clear. It is bit complicated, but please try to understand. Now try to read this sentence one by one. Can someone read for me? Centralized procedure.
Yes,
Kruti?
ma'am.
Yeah.
The centralized procedure is one which allows applicants to obtain a marketing authorization that is valid throughout the Europe via single application to EMEA.
Correct.
Fe-
Yeah.
Features results in a single authorization valid in Europe. Application evaluated by an assigned rapporteur. Timeline: EMA opinion issued within 210 days and submitted to European Commissions for final approval. Required for medicine of biotechnology processes, cancer, HIV or AIDS, diabetes, orphan medicines, etc.
Perfect. So clear? So it requires 210 days for the application approval. Okay, the getting marketing authorization via centralized procedure. Now someone else can read mutual recognition procedure, please. Who else is there? Please, I need your attention. Huh? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
I'll read it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mutual recognition procedure. So, the mutual recognition procedure allows applicants to obtain a marketing authorization in the member states, that is concerned member state, other than the member state, that is reference member state, where the drug is previously approved. Features: applicant submits identical dossier to all Europe member states in which it wants authorization, including required information. Now, as soon as one member state decides to evaluate the medicinal product, at which point it becomes the RMS, it notifies this decision to other member states, which then becomes the CMS, to whom applications have also been submitted. Now, RMS issues a report to other states on its own findings. Generic industry is the major user of this type of drug approval procedure, and this process may consume a time period of 390 days.
Great. Thank you so much. What is your name, dear?
Ma'am Pooja.
Pooja. So, Pooja and other student, have you understood this mutual recognition procedure? If yes, say yes, I will go ahead. If not, I will again repeat if you want.
Yes, ma'am.
Understood? Mutually recognition procedure. That means you have already entered into Europe, right? Through the national procedure. So you can submit this applicant submit identical dossier to all Europe member states in which they want to enter. Correct? They want to market their product. They want to get the marketing authorization. Am I right? And that's how we have to select what one country as a RMS, that is reference member state, and other country in which you want to register your product, you can select as a CMS. CMS is a concerned member state. Okay. Now come to nationalized procedure. I need third person to read this. Where is that boy? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can read, please. What is your name?
Ma'am Gaurav.
Gaurav. Yeah. Gaurav, you can read, please.
Nationalized procedure.
Hmm.
The nationalized procedure is one which allows applicants to obtain a marketing authorization in one member state only.
Hmm.
In order to obtain a national marketing authorization, an applicant must be submitted to the competent authority of the member state. The features are as follows. New active substances which are not mandatory under centralized procedure can obtain marketing authorization under this procedure. Timeline for this procedure is 210 days.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Gaurav. Now I need fourth student to read the decentralized procedure. I need volunteers, more volunteers.
Ma'am, but then what is the difference between centralized and the nationalized procedure?
Centralized is one application for entire Europe. Okay. And here one application to one country only, dear. You cannot enter into entire Europe. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
It is only for one member state. I hope it is clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
I will again conclude. Okay. Just let someone read this decentralized procedure first. I need fourth volunteer.
Decentralized procedure.
Yeah.
Using this procedure, companies may apply for authorization simultaneously in more than one EU country for products that have not yet been authorized in any country.
Hmm.
Based on the assessment report which is prepared by the RMS and any comments made by the CMS, MA should be granted in accordance with the decision taken by RMS and CMS in this decentralized procedure. Features generally used for those products that has not yet received any authorization in any EU country. Time required 210 days.
Yeah. So in suppose if you don't want to enter like one single country and one product, you can directly go through decentralized procedure wherein you can select one country as RMS, okay, and multiple country as CMS. And then the based on this assessment report, given by this RMS and any comment made by other CMS, marketing authorization, you can get it. Only thing, this is just costly affair and time consuming process, but the main advantage is what, at a time you can select multiple countries CMS and move ahead. Okay. So all big countries like big MNC multinational companies apply through this route, decentralized procedure. Okay. And the time is 210 days. So I hope it is pretty clear now. Centralized means what? one application entire Europe, but centralized procedure is required for what? Rare disease, orphan drugs, emergency medicinal use. Okay, then decentralized means you can select one country as RMS and multiple country as CMS, and you can enter via this route. Nationalized means one single member state only you can enter at a time. Okay, so any new drug substance which you want to try, because what happens in DCP, you have to invest a lot. That investment should not go waste. That is why, to get a confidence of European regulatory system, people go through this national route also. Okay, you can go through this route. Then mutually recognition also, you understood. Once you have registered via any other route, you can go through same MRP, mutually recognize the identical product in other country, other EU member state in which you want the marketing authorization. Understood? But in
Ma'am, can you
MRP,
repeat this mutual recognition one?
See here, it is straightly written. The mutual recognition procedure allows applicants to obtain a marketing authorization in the member state, that is concerned member state, other than the reference member state. Okay, suppose in national procedure you have entered into Netherlands. Say for example, you have filed your product and registered into Netherlands. Okay, now you want to enter into other countries. Now you built a confidence ki now I have entered into Europe, I got an approval into Netherlands, but what about other 27, 29 countries? So slowly you go through other countries. Okay, so applicant should submit the identical dossier in to all EU member state. Okay, in which it wants authorization. So suppose other than Netherlands, if you want to enter into other countries, okay, with the same identical dossier, you are allowed through this mutual recognition procedure. Okay, so how
Yes,
do
ma'am.
they evaluate? How do they evaluate? As soon as one member state decides to evaluate the medicinal product, at which point it becomes the RMS, it notifies this decision to other member states. Okay, which then becomes the CMS. You got my point? And to whom application have also been submitted. So at the same time, you select the CMS, correct? You have selected five more countries, or you can select two also. It depends on you, your company regulatory strategy. Okay. So RMS and CMS coordinate with each other. They notify their decision to this RMS, and then you get the approval. So RMS issues a report to other states on its own findings. So RMS means reference member states has their own review and own findings, observation about that product, about that dossier, right? Application means what? You submit the dossier to,
Okay, ma'am.
yeah. So RMS issues report to other states on, and it's along with its finding, and that is why mainly generic industry use this mutual recognition procedure. Okay. National. Now I hope it is pretty clear for procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we slowly move to Australia. See, now once you understand UK MHRA, exactly similar is European procedure. So I need not to repeat for Europe. Okay? Or do you want me to repeat again all this centralized, decentralized, national, MRP?
No, ma'am.
Correct? And that's how this regulatory affairs, once you understand the country specific, product specific regulation, it becomes easy for you, to handle country. Because in any pharmaceutical industry, this regulatory affair department plays very important role. Okay. But understanding each country specific requirement, regulatory system is equally important when you want to become a regulatory professional. So coming to Australia, Australia Health Authority, it is called TGA. TGA means what? Therapeutic Goods Administration. It is a unit of the Australian Government Department of Health and Aging. Okay, it's responsible for administering the Act, which came into effect from 15 February 1991. The responsibility for the regulatory control lies with the Therapeutic Goods Administration as the national regulatory authority for therapeutic goods. What is the role of TGA? Can someone read it out? TGA carries out an overall control through five main processes. Wait, I will read this role and then I will ask someone to read. Okay, another slides. So, main role is what? Pre market evaluation and approval of registered product intended for supplying Australia. Development, maintenance, and monitoring of the system for listing of medicine. Of course, everything in Australia. Licensing of manufacturers in accordance with international standards of GMPs. Post market monitoring through sampling, adverse event reporting, surveillance activities, and response to public inquiries. Okay. Then the assessment of medicines for export. So it is pretty clear, although all these roles are common to all health authority, whether it is UKMHRA, whether it is TGA or anyone else. Now, regulation of clinical trials by TGA, how does it happen? Okay, so how it is happen? There are two schemes. One is CTX scheme, that is clinical trial exemption, and CTN, that is clinical trial notification. Okay, what is CTX? Can someone read?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
Clinical trials of medicine and medical devices conducted in Australia are subjected to Commonwealth Government regulation administered by the Therapeutic Goods Administration. These are two schemes to conduct clinical trials. Clinical Trial Exemption Scheme (CTX). Trial sponsor notifies the TGA of their intention to conduct a clinical trial using an unapproved therapeutic good. Clinical Trial Notification Scheme (CTN). The TGA does not review any data relating to the clinical trial. The CTN form is submitted by the investigator on behalf of the sponsor to the HREC Human Research Ethics Committee and to the approving authority. Once the sponsor, the principal investigator, the chairman of the HREC, and the person responsible from the approving authority have signed the CTN form, it is submitted by the sponsor of the trial to the TGA along with the appropriate notification fee.
Great. So, what is the meaning out of it? CTX and CTN. In CTX, trial sponsor notifies the TGA of their intention to why they are conducting this clinical trial, right? And in CTN, what happens? The TGA does not review any data relating to the clinical trial, but the CTN form is submitted by the investigator on behalf of sponsor to the HREC, okay, Human Research Ethics Committee, and to approving authority. Once the sponsor, the principal investigator, the chairman of HREC, and the person responsible from the approving authority have signed the CTN form, it is submitted by the sponsor of the trial, okay, to TGA. So here the main difference is given. You can see the difference between CTN and CTX. Okay, CTN is just a notification process, whereas CTX is what? Approval process. CTN is one step process to notify, and here it is two-step process. That is, part one is approval, part two is notification. TTN can be used for medicines, devices, or biologicals, whereas CTX can be used for medicines, devices, or biologicals, but required for class 4 biologicals. Okay. Then no TGA review of data prior to trial. Here TGA must evaluate and approve. Okay. Then trial cannot commence without valid notification and fee paid under CTN, whereas here trial cannot commence without part 1 being approved. Okay. Then under CTN, assurances pertaining to the trial conduct and protocols are provided by the sponsor, HREC, PI and AA, whereas assurance pertaining to the trial conducting what protocol are provided by the sponsor. So I'm going to share these slides with you guys. You can read it later on and try to understand. Although I think you must be having clinical trial syllabus as a separate topic, and in which the faculty will have more focus towards the clinical trials. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct, na? So under clinical trial, we won't spend more time because that is totally different topic, and it's again a big area of clinical trials. Yeah. So about prescription drugs, how they are categorized? Category 1, 2, and 3. So under category 1, it includes what? Application includes new chemical entities, new dosage form, new strains and new generic products, and significant variation to an existing application. Whereas category 2 can only be utilized when an application has been previously accepted in two countries. Okay, like MRP, what we discussed, right? So requires shorter time frame for evaluation. And category 3 means what? Involve changes to the quality data of medicine already included on the ARTG site. So do not need to be supported by clinical, non-clinical or bioequivalence data. Example, the shelf life and the storage condition, labeling and packaging replacement trade name. So category 3 means what? You have already registered the product, okay, and it is under life cycle management. Okay, suppose there are changes happening to your product with respect to shelf life, storage condition, or any label change or package change, then only you can go through this, minor change information under the category 3. So in brief, category 1 is for entire new molecule, okay, the new chemical, that is NCE, new chemical entity or new dosage form, new strength or new generic product. Okay, this is category 1. Category 2 means what? You are already known. You have your application already applied through previous two countries and you got the approval. Okay, so you can go under category 2 so that the time is less required for this approval. And 3 means what? You have already done everything, and only for the changes and maintaining that license you are going through category 3. So this is a flow chart. You have to read it carefully. I will give you few seconds. You can just read, and later on, once you get this document, you can just understand. But entire regulatory system, I hope. Hello, Vandana. You have to understand. So TGA again, I would say TGA, Europe, USA, all they accept eCTD application. eCTD means Electronic Common Technical Document. I think CTD, eCTD is also included in your syllabus, because whatever dossier you are submitting to different agencies, under regulated countries you have to submit into CTD eCTD format. Okay, CTD is common technical document, eCTD is electronic common technical document. So you have to apply through this. Okay, and then simple application entry review evaluation by TG or external auditors. Okay, then review is done like quality review, non-clinical review, clinical review, and you get the review report, right, from the three different departments. And then they delegate seek advice from ADC, this committee. Okay, and then they review and delegate request to ADC advice and sponsor comments before making the recommendation. And then you get the final report and gets the product approval. So it is pretty simple. If under this review, suppose if anyone rejects your dossier with whatever justification you must have given, what happens? You can appeal or reapply if it is rejected. If it is approved, there is no question. Okay, but entire, just hold on. I'm getting call. Hello. हाँ. कितने बजे? हाँ. ठीक है, ठीक है. बोलो. हाँ. ठीक. हाँ. So category, see, 1 and 2 application goes like this. Category 3 application goes like this. Okay, because category 3 is simple, no variation and this change in whatever the quality of label, packaging. So when you go for category 3, application goes for the review. Evaluation is done by TG and or external auditor. If it is accepted, it goes to the next cycle. If it is not accepted, you have to reapply, of course. Correct? So quality review, non-clinical, clinical review, the review report is given. If it is approved, go to this ARTG, entry updated with the new changes. And if it is rejected, applicant may appeal or reapply. Easy to understand with the flow chart? Say yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Here I forgot to mention, if you want to call for pre-submission meeting with the TGA, you can go for pre-submission meeting also. If not required, simply you submit the dossier and entire process will happen as per this flow chart. Sometimes what happens under evaluation of your dossier, they may ask for the additional data, the deficiency may arise. So as per their requirement, their gap analysis, you have to provide all those documents with respect to quality, safety and efficacy. So this module 4 and module 5 talks about what? Safety. That is non-clinical review and the clinical review. Whereas module 3 always talks about quality review. Why I have written this module 3, 4, 5? Because this ECTD comprises of 5 modules. Okay. Module 1 is administrative, module 2 is quality oral summary, module 3 is CMC, that is quality, module 4 non-clinical, and module 5 it is clinical review. I hope it is pretty clear. Do you need any break in between? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need a
Yes.
break or shall I continue?
Ma'am, you can continue.
I will continue. Thank you. You are not getting bored or you're attentive, I hope. I hope so.
Yes, ma'am.
All are listening. And who is the class representative who is going to take the attendance, today's attendance?
Ma'am, it's gonna be me, Gaurav.
Gaurav. Okay, Gaurav. So what I will do after our session, I will stop, 5 minutes early, and I will post this Google link so that you can fill up and make your presence. Yeah. So I have made the Google form also, but I will send the link after the lecture. So what you learned so far, so now? Tell me what you learned. Just to recap.
Registration process for UK and Australia.
Correct. And before that, what you learned? What is the definition of regulatory affairs?
Collecting, analyzing, and communicating risks and benefit with different regulatory bodies of the world.
Right.
Then its
Collecting.
main
Yeah.
objectives
Hmm. Correct.
and key functions.
Perfect. So I hope you understood the responsibility roles of each agency plus the roles and responsibility of regulatory affair professional as well. What they have to do, like when they get the job as a regulatory affair executive or officer or whatever. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So moving forward, we will discuss about registration process in Brazil. You know where this Brazil comes under? Which part of the continent?
South America.
Latin America. Yeah.
Latin America.
So it is usually called as LATAM, Latin America. Okay. Under LATAM, the Brazil, Mexico, and some other countries falls. Okay. So their agency is Anvisa. Brazil is also a big body, and the health authority or the agency is called as Anvisa. So Brazil is biggest country of South America. Some of the small countries nearby Brazil are all following rules according to Anvisa. Anvisa means what? Agencia Nacional de Vigilancia Sanitaria. This abbreviation is in Portuguese because they use Portuguese language. Okay. So in English, what is the meaning of this Portuguese Anvisa? It's a National Health Surveillance Agency. Okay. Or sometimes it is written as Brazilian Health Surveillance Agency. Clear? Anvisa?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Because of Vigilancia Sanitaria, that visa, VISA. Okay. And AN is Agencia Nacional D. So in Portuguese and in English, you should understand what is the Brazil Health Authority? It's Anvisa. So the National Health Surveillance Agency was established in 1999 by President Fernando Henrique Cardoso. You should not remember all this, but Anvisa is the major health main agency for Brazil. You should remember what is the responsibility of Brazil: monitoring drug prices, prices of medical devices, control and inspection of smoking products, technical support in granting of patents by the National Institute of Industrial Property, protection of the health of the population by exercising sanitary control over the production, marketing of products and services subject to sanitary surveillance, controlling ports, airports, and borders, right? And linked to the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and foreign institutions over matters concerning international aspects of sanitary surveillance. Pretty easy understanding. See, whatever drugs, devices, and are registered under Anvisa will be controlled by this health authority. So, how you register new drug? Okay, what are the registration procedure followed as per Anvisa? So, registration procedure of new drug, it is mainly divided in three parts as follows. First, pre-registration measures, that is you have to submit protocol for your clinical study, correct? We are talking about new drug. Huh? So new drug always, whenever you want to enter newly into market with the new drug, then you have to follow entire procedure of like we submit NDA application to US FDA, correct? Because new drug itself is a very exhaustive procedure in which we follow all phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials, correct? And that's why these three parts are very important. First is pre-registration measures, wherein protocol for clinical studies provided. When under second part, the registration, documents to be submitted, then protocols for new drug and protocol for import of new drugs. Then the post registration, what? Alteration in registration, renewal of registration. So three parts are what? Pre-registration, registration, and the post-registration. So these three parts can be considered similar to our IND, NDA, and supplementary NDA as per US FDA. Okay. What is IND? Investigational New Drug Application. What is ANDA or NDA? New Drug Application. And ANDA is Abbreviated New Drug Application. So these are the common terms used in USA. So which is US Health Authority? US FDA. Okay. So under US FDA, you have to submit different application called ND, NDA, ANDA. BLA is what? Biological. So what the pre-registration measures you have to take? In case of new national drug product, the protocol of the clinical studies and the results or current status of the studies in compliance with the legislation in force has to be submitted. And in case of new imported drug product that will undergo phase 3 clinical studies in Brazil, the study protocol and the results or the current status of the studies in compliance with the legislation in force has to be submitted. Okay. And whenever phase 3 will take place with a new product manufactured in the country, pre-notification for the production of pilot batch according to the guide for notification of pilot batch of medicine has to be submitted. Okay. So how this pre-registration measure takes place, that is explained in this slide. Now come to the second, that is registration. What kind of documents are submitted under registration? First, registration petition form, proof of payment, copy of company's operation license, right? Manufacturing license, test license, like that. And the technical responsibility certificate by the Regional Pharmacy Council, copy of your notification protocol of pilot batch production, and your GMP certificate emitted by the NVISA. Under protocol for new drug, what all things are goes? Can Gaurav read for this slide? Second and third slide.
Yes, ma'am. So for registration,
Mm.
second is the protocol for the new drug. General data, the package, insert text, label, etc. should be mentioned. Expiry date by stability studies, all toxicity study reports, clinical trial data with statistical treatments for combination. Maximum 3 is allowed for oral or injectable preparation. 4 combinations are allowed only if the fourth ingredient is caffeine. Physiochemical parameters of the drug, synthesis route, all reagent, solvent, and conditions, and the pharmacodynamic parameters, pharmacokinetic parameters, production reports, QC of raw material and finished products.
Correct. Now continue.
Yes, ma'am. And the third is a protocol for the import of new drug. GMP of importing country or inspection by ANVISA, ANVISA. The documentation is allowed in Portuguese, English, or Spanish language. Label package insert must be in Portuguese, Brazilian language. Official documents like certificates given by importing country, if it is in foreign language, that must be translated with legal translator only. In some cases, applicator wants to import bulk drugs from foreign and then pack the product in Brazil. In such cases, expiry date must be counted from manufacturing date in foreign and not the packaging date in Brazil.
Very good. Now can Kruti read post registration measures?
Yes, ma'am. Any registration changes shall follow the procedure specified in the guide for making post-registration alterations and inclusions in medicine. Anvisa may undertake a control analysis of commercialized batches in official laboratories in other in order to monitor the quality and conformity of the drug with the drug registered. Whenever necessary, Anvisa may request that the companies train their technicians in order to enable them to undertake this monitoring.
Okay, okay, great. So I hope it is pretty clear about Brazilian procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
So I will just for your recap, I will again uh, display the slides. Okay. So Brazil, the health authority is called what? Anvisa. Okay. Then Anvisa is responsible, the same quality, safety, efficacy, and all monitoring prices of medical devices and their drug product. Correct? Marketing and other services which are linked to Brazil. Then registration takes place in three parts. One is pre-registration, second is registration, third is post-registration. Okay. So the difference between three also you have understood. And similar to US FDA, there are different kinds of application like IND, NDA, NDA is submitted. Okay. And this on this we have explained about the pre-registration measures, then the registration measures, and what post-registration measures. Okay. Now we move slowly towards Canada. So Canadian Health Authority is called Health Canada. Okay. So what is UK Health Authority? Can someone tell? UK Health Authority.
MHRA,
And what is Australian Health Authority called?
TGA.
TGA,
TGA. Correct. So you learnt TGA, you learnt MHRA, and what else you learned?
Ma'am,
Anvisa.
Brazilian.
And visa. So three countries. That's a big achievement in the first lecture itself. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And what is Indian Health Authority is called?
CDSU.
Perfect. I'm so happy that you are attentive. Okay. Now we move towards Canada. Canadian Health Authority is called Health Canada. Okay. So again, Kruti or someone, I need fifth volunteer now to keep you alive. Yeah. To keep you awake. Who is fifth person who can read? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What is your name?
Ma'am, I am Kruti only.
Oh, Kruti. Kruti. Can someone else read? If not, then Kruti, you can please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Drugs are authorized for sale in Canada once they have successfully gone through the drug review process. This process is the means by which a drug application is reviewed by scientists in the Health Products and Food Branch HPFB of Health Canada, and on occasion outside experts to assess the safety, efficacy and quality of a drug.
Hmm.
Health Canada's HPFB is the national authority that regulates, evaluates, and monitors the safety, efficacy, and quality of therapeutic and diagnostic products available to Canadians. These products include drug, medical device, disinfectants, and sanitizers with disinfectant claims. Throughout the process, the safety and well-being of Canadians is the paramount concern.
Correct. So, as I mentioned, any health authority's main objective is what? To protect public health, and safety is the major concern. Correct? So, Health Canada also monitor what? Drugs and what else? Drugs, medical devices,
Disinfectants.
disinfectant, sanitizers. Correct? So, all these products are monitored, rather regulated under Health Canada. Will remember? You will remember now?
Yes, ma'am.
And the health product and the food branch, it is called HPFB, okay, of Health Canada. So, regulatory process for drugs in Canada, how it goes like this. The exhibit shows the steps in the regulatory process for drugs in Canada from pre-market to post-market. Similarly, everywhere it goes from pre-market to post-market. So the pre-market part of the process starts with the preclinical studies, and for preclinical studies, these are the steps. Okay. So preclinical studies में क्या होता है? Like clinical trials, regulatory product submission, submission review, market authorization decision, public access, surveillance, inspection and investigation. And then the post-market part of the process begins with surveillance, inspection and investigation when drug has been made accessible to the public. So more or less like 80-90% these steps are same for each country. Yeah, whether it is TGA, whether it is Brazil, whether it is Canada, whether it is USA. So always whenever you want to launch your product or whenever you want to get entry into any market, you have to, you know, go for the preclinical, the clinical trials, then the regulatory product submission, then the submission review happens, correct? Then the regulatory reviewers will give the decision, they will provide the report whether it is acceptable or not, and then it is made to the public, access. That means it will be published. If you see US FDA, EMA or Health Canada website, whatever product gets the approval, it is published on the daily basis. So Sandoz has got the approval for say for example tetramycin or whichever drug they get the approval, it will be published. So daily you should visit all the websites and see what are the information available on daily basis. Similarly, our CDSU site also you can visit and see for what are the drugs are available or any new guidance is published or not. So this is what the pre-market to post-market flow chart, and different types of submission are available under Health Canada, which is called as for the new drug it is NDS, that is new drug submission, NDS. Okay, so NDS requires almost 300 calendar days for the approval. So NDS is required for what? New drugs that have not been sold in Canada for sufficient time and in sufficient quantity to establish their safety and effectiveness. So it includes what? It includes what? Clinical trial information and details on production, packaging, labeling, condition for use and side effects. Whereas supplemental new drug submission, that is SNDS. Okay, NDS later on it is supplemental means SNDS. When it is required? If substantial changes are made to the drug previously approved as a new drug submission, including dosage form, drug strain, method of manufacturer, labeling, or manufacturer wish to expand the disease or condition the product is approved to treat. Correct? So this also requires 300 calendar days. Now we come to abbreviated new drug submission, ANDS, wherein same application in US FDA it is called ANDA. Okay, Here it is ANDS. This is required for what? Generic drugs. You know the difference between generic and branded? Can someone explain me? You know the difference between generic drug and the branded drug? Can Gaurav, Kruti, or anyone else? Pooja, what is the difference between generic and the branded drug? Tell me.
Ma'am, a branded drug is something which is sold under the brand name and which is patented by that brand. And a generic drug is a drug which is easily available, like without any brand or something.
Okay. Can anyone else add to this? Anyone else?
Ma'am, generics are available at a cheaper price because they use cheaper substituents for the vehicle and excipients. So branded has like a proper formula that is registered by the brand, but generics will have the same API and different excipients for the same drug.
No, when you enter into generic market like ANDA, it's not the cheaper or costly, it has to be exactly same molecule with respect to your label claim. It is the same drug, same API, identical dosage form, and everything. Okay, only why it is cheaper than the branded, because branded drug is a new innovative formulation, and to enter into market they have taken 10 to 12 years. Okay, because to get into new drug development itself, you must have seen there are preclinical phases, clinical phases. So entire 12 to 15, 12, sometimes 15 years goes for one NDA or one NCE, correct? And the cost is depending on those 12 years, correct, which is invested by the innovator. Whereas when we talk about generics, we don't have to go with the entire preclinical or the clinical studies, and we don't have to invest 12 to 15 years. That much money is saved. But you can copycat, you copy the same molecule as good as NDA, and additionally you have to perform the BAB studies, the bioequivalent studies, and you have to prove that your drug is bioequivalent to the innovator drug. So, why this is the major difference between the generic and the innovator is the cost and time, because you need not to wait for 12 to 15 years how the innovator has waited to bring that molecule into market. Okay, this is first thing. Second thing is entirely same as per Hatch-Waxman Act. Whenever you want to enter into market with the generic application, you should select the molecule, the API same, the dosage form like 10 mg, 20 mg, or 40 mg, same. Okay, the dose and the dosage form like tablet, capsule, or any kind of formulation should be same. Okay, only difference is you need not to go for clinical trials with phase 1, 2, 3, but you have to go for bioequivalence studies, and you have to prove that your product is bioequivalent, and that's how it takes only 180 calendar days to get the marketing approval for generic application. Okay, so being a pharmacist, being a regulatory professional, you have to understand the difference between the branded drug and the innovator drug. Okay, branded is only innovator, the generic drug and the innovator drug or the branded. I hope it is pretty clear now, the difference.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And of course, you, as someone said, the intellectual property rights, that is patent. Okay, the patent goes with the branded product because they have invested 12 to 15 years. So they go for the patent, they get the exclusive right. Okay, so 20 years from the date of application when they start their development. Okay, so coming to ANDS or ANDA in US FDA, you have to submit, and it include evidence that generic is equivalent to the existing patented drug, which is your innovator, right? It delivers the same amount of medicinal ingredient at the same rate, correct? So Cmax, the Cmax, the area under the curve, that is the part of your drug delivery, that is bioequivalence, bioavailability. So here the rate, the same rate is very important. As per the innovator, your drug, which is a generic drug, should elute the same amount at the same rate. Okay, and this application, you get the approval within 180 calendar days. Then go for supplemental ANDA or supplemental ANDS. Okay, it again required if at all any changes made to your generic product. Okay, so suppose over the period of time you change the method of manufacture, or any label recommended by any health authority, or sometimes what happens, you change the route of administration. Now suppose if you want to go from tablet to syrup, you want to go from tablet to capsule, then in that case you have to submit the supplement or additional indication or new indication. Right? Now, suppose aspirin in old age, aspirin we used to use for as an antipyretic analgesic. You know the aspirin? Hello,
Yes, ma'am.
correct. So aspirin was used as a analgesic or antipyretic, but nowadays aspirin is used for what? Tell me, what is it used for in heart patient? It helps in thinning of your blood. Am I right? So
Yes, ma'am.
aspirin is used in antihypertensive, so as an antihypertensive, along with of course lovastatin or any statin drugs, atorvastatin, lovastatin, or any rosuvastatin. So you should remember that when it talks about a new indication, that means, or additional indication, means what? It has multiple use. So aspirin is used as an analgesic antibiotic, but simultaneously it can be used for thinning of your blood for heart patient. So when this supplemental abbreviated new drug submission goes, in case of route of administration changes, in case of label changes, in case of your method of manufacture changes, or in case of new indication. Clear? Then come to
Yes, ma'am.
OTC. Then come to OTC. Okay. So DIN is your drug identification number. So DIN application is used most commonly for OTC that have been established safety records but that require additional supporting data and a clinical review. A DINF application is used mostly commonly for OTC that comply with existing drug labeling and that do not require additional supporting scientific data. So in DIN also there are two types, DIN A and DIN F, correct? A is used for OTC wherein you require additional supporting data. Okay? Whereas DIN F is what? You do not require the supporting scientific data. So that is why here the number of days are 45, and where you require the clinical data or the clinical review, The number of days are 210. You know the difference between OTC and our normal prescription drug? Anyone knows the difference between RX and OTC?
OTC
Hello?
drugs we can give without prescription.
Yeah, with prescription and without prescription. You are right. That means OTC drug can be bought from any medical shop or any outlet, okay, without any doctor's prescription. If you want to hear the exact terminology or exact information you want to learn, you can go through YouTube, my Rajeshri Oja YouTube channel, and you will find more information on OTC. So submission type and their description, post market changes, that is CMC, that chemistry manufacturing changes. So whenever manufacturer has CMC related changes, they have to inform to Health Canada, okay. And in case of say this adverse event, adverse effect also, they have to inform to Health Canada. And this type of application is required 90 days. Then any product labeling change or monograph change also you can report to Health Canada. It also requires 90 days. Okay. And this is exactly the Canadian drug review process happens. Okay. So under drug development, Health Canada reviews your application with respect to quality, safety and efficacy. Okay. And then the patented medicine price review board for the pricing. Then health technology assessment takes place, correct? And then it goes to hospital and the patient has access. The flowchart continues. Health Canada approves drug for sale in Canada. Then the manufacturer submits clinical and economic evidence to justify public funding, right? So new drugs with new indication. This is cancer drug. Okay. So how it happens? It is given. So we'll stop here because Japan is also one of the health authority and which is more critical, I would say. And on first day, I won't you know go into the complicated system. So let us stop here and we will have some question answer session and followed by our attendance. Okay. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Ma'am, shall I post the link in the chat box?
Yes, please.